Video about the myth of how corn is the downfall of human civilization. What many people don't understand, and it's a lot of things in fad diet culture are common. They think it's common sense, and it's this plus this equals that. And one of the things is a lot of refined food products contain a lot of corn. Okay, so a lot of corn syrup, a lot of refined corn, a lot of corn flour, what have you. So then they assume that this means that, well, corn is what has caused Syndrome X, or metabolic syndrome. And to an extent, yes, things like corn syrup have, and lots of sugar in corn-based cereals like Kix or Corn Pops or something like that. But if you look further, the Amerindians, and people might wonder, why do I pick on the Amerindians so much? Why do I use them as an example? Well, because the Amerindians were the only semi-civilized societies that European explorers came to that actually were relatively healthy. Okay? So when European settlers or European explorers came to the New World, they were astonished at the health and vigor of the Amerindians, which were semi-civilized. And corn is a central feature in their culture. So why is corn so widely circulated throughout Amerindian culture, North, Central, and South America? Well, it's because corn was a staple of their diet, but it was not the only staple. And that's what I want to point out here. Now, corn on its own is not a terrible food, but it was eaten with other things, such as beans. Now, I talked about the importance of beans, and I'm going to do that again. We can't ignore that when you eat food, there's a hormonal response, and the two big ones that affect longevity in life, and well, and the body fat composition of the body are insulin and IGF-1. Now, insulin makes you fat, and when you eat carbohydrate, any carbohydrate aside fiber, your body releases insulin to deal with that, and it's a storage hormone, so it makes you chubby. And IGF-1 increases the aging process and increases the risk of things like cancer. Now, beans, which are extremely high in fiber and phytochemicals, seem to downplay the release of the carbohydrate into the bloodstream, causing a lower release of insulin, and they seem to regulate IGF-1 and knock down the amount of IGF-1 in the system, reducing the amount of aging and the amounts of cancer. Now, what's important is this. You also have to understand these foods were also consumed along with, like beans and corn, were also consumed with nutrient-rich foraged vegetables and very lean meats. But I want to get into the vegetables as well as insects like crickets. But the very lean meats, the vegetables like peppers and greens like purslane and things like that were foraged. So, you have a very nutrient-dense diet. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the zone diet. Now, the zone diet is a diet that regulates the hormonal response with a piece of meat about the size and thickness of the palm of the hand, and twice that in fruits and vegetables, low-carb fruits and vegetables. And I'm going to leave links to the zone diet. When I ate the paleo diet, I balanced the macros like the zone diet to make sure I was getting proper macro balancing. Now, what's funny is this zone diet controls hormonal response, but the IGF-1 it does not control because it seeks to get foods, the protein sources from meat. In fact, Barry Sears, and I forget which book, he states, an easy thing to remember is protein moves round and round and carbohydrates come from the ground. That's how you can remember which is which. He was not a fan of plant protein, although he did write a book called The Soy Zone. But soy isolate protein is actually similar to meat in the sense that the aminos are similar to meat, and it's very high in methionine. So or not very high, but it's higher in methionine than other beans, so it can release IGF-1, and it can overstimulate mTOR. So my point is that we cannot ignore the hormonal response in these foods. Or that when you consume these foods, the body has a hormonal reaction. And that's what can't be ignored. That's where Dr. McDougall and the carnivores and other people like that are very wrong. Okay, they ignore the hormonal response. In Dr. McDougall's case, he ignores the hormonal response of insulin, and in the carnivore's case, they ignore the hormonal response of IGF-1. And again, I want to make sure that people follow my links, know where I'm getting this stuff, and understand that I'm not a medical doctor, I'm not a medical professional, I'm not a scientist, I'm just a guy. These videos are for complete entertainment purposes only. And that's all for this video.